You want results in your prayer life? It all begins with intimacy. So many people approach prayer like it is a task, a duty, a checklist to tick off before the day moves on. They think that saying the right words, repeating the right phrases, or praying in public will automatically move God to act. But that is not how it works. Prayer is not a performance, it is a relationship. God is not impressed by eloquence, length, or volume. What He desires is a heart that seeks Him genuinely, a spirit that longs to know Him and experience His presence. Intimacy with God is the heartbeat of effective prayer. Without it, your words float in the air with no power. Your requests become empty and your expectations remain unfulfilled. Intimacy begins with knowing God, not just about Him. Many people read the Bible, sing songs, and attend meetings, but they never take time to truly encounter God. They know facts about Him, but they do not experience His nearness. True prayer is born out of a personal connection. It is about entering into the secret place, the inner chamber of your heart where He dwells, and communing with Him as a friend, as a father, as a lover of your soul. It is here that your prayers gain potency. It is here that your faith is ignited. It is here that the Spirit intercedes with groanings that words cannot express. When you cultivate intimacy, you are no longer just speaking to God. You are engaging with Him, listening to Him, and partnering with Him in the movement of your life. One of the biggest mistakes people make is to pray without expectation, without a sense of God's presence. They approach Him as if He is distant or disinterested, and their prayers reflect that doubt. But intimacy changes everything. When you know God personally, when you feel His presence, your prayers carry authority. They are infused with confidence, not arrogance, but the kind of bold assurance that comes from knowing that the Creator of heaven and earth is attentive to your voice. This confidence does not come from your ability to speak, but from the certainty that God is who He says He is, that He is faithful, and that He responds when His children draw near. Intimacy also transforms the content of your prayers. When you are close to God, your prayers move beyond superficial requests or selfish desires. They begin to reflect His heart, His priorities, and His will. You begin to pray with insight, with wisdom, with discernment. Your words are guided by the Spirit, and your petitions carry the weight of alignment with the Creator's purpose. This is why some prayers shake nations, change situations, and open doors that seem permanently closed. It is not magic. It is the power of closeness, the force of intimacy that connects human need with divine ability. The reality is simple. Without intimacy, prayer becomes routine. With intimacy, prayer becomes powerful. The question is, will you seek God with a heart that desires closeness over convenience, relationship over ritual? Will you spend time in His presence, not just asking, but listening, learning, and worshiping? If you do, you will discover that results are not the exception. They are the natural outcome. The closer you are to God, the more powerful your prayers become, and the more impossible things begin to shift in your life. Intimacy is not optional if you want results. It is the very essence of prayer that moves mountains. Faith is the lifeblood of every prayer that produces results. Many people pray, but their prayers seem to go unanswered because faith is missing. You can have the most eloquent words, the most beautiful posture, and the most sincere intentions, but without faith, your prayers are powerless. Faith is what turns your spoken words into spiritual force. Faith is what transforms expectation into manifestation. It is faith that tells the mountains in your life to move, and faith that causes the heavens to respond to your cry. When you pray without faith, you are essentially asking without believing that anything can change. But when you pray with faith, even the impossible begins to bow to your persistence and belief. Faith requires more than just hope or desire. Many people say, I hope God will do this for me, or I wish God will answer my prayer, and then wonder why nothing happens. Hope is passive. Faith is active. Faith does not wait. It pushes. Faith speaks before it sees. Faith believes before circumstances agree. When you pray with faith, you do not pray for what you want to see. You pray as though the answer is already on its way. Faith does not beg, it trusts. It does not doubt, it expects. It does not stagger under pressure, it stands firm, anchored in the knowledge that God is able, God is faithful, and God is ready to act on your behalf. Faith is also fearless. When you pray with faith, fear and anxiety cannot hijack your results. Circumstances may seem overwhelming, obstacles may appear insurmountable, but faith refuses to be intimidated by what the eyes see. Faith focuses on the one who holds the universe, not on the chaos around you. It is this faith that produces bold prayers, prayers that challenge limits, prayers that stretch beyond what the natural mind can comprehend. The prayers of faith are prayers that shake strongholds, dismantle barriers, and rewrite the story of your life. Expectation is inseparable from faith. When you pray, pray with the certainty that something is going to happen. Stop praying with doubt in your heart or hesitation on your lips. God honors faith that trusts Him fully, faith that says, "I do not yet see it, but I believe it." Expectation is the engine that drives your prayer from heaven into reality. Faith and expectation work together. Faith lays the groundwork, and expectation keeps the pressure on until the answer manifests. Finally, faith transforms your relationship with God. When you pray in faith, you move from being a mere petitioner to being a partner with the Almighty. You begin to see that your prayers are not just about asking, they are about aligning yourself with His power and authority. Faith positions you in a place of authority, in a place where God responds because you have approached Him with the confidence of one who knows He is faithful to act. Results come when faith dominates fear, when belief overpowers doubt, and when expectation refuses to be silent. Faith is not optional if you want results. It is the very force that gives life to your prayers. Without faith, prayers are words. With faith, prayers are weapons. With faith, prayers are instruments of change. With faith, you move mountains. Choose faith, cultivate it, believe it, and watch as what seemed impossible begins to manifest in your life. Alignment is the secret that turns ordinary prayers into extraordinary results. Many people pray with all their heart, with all their faith, yet their prayers seem to hit a ceiling and never come back down with the answer. Why? Because their prayers are misaligned. They are not in sync with God's will. They are not walking in the pathway that God has designed for their life. Effective prayer is not just about persistence or passion. It is about positioning. It is about asking in harmony with the purpose of the one who hears. When your prayers align with God's will, you unleash supernatural power. When they do not, no amount of effort, no amount of eloquence, no amount of persistence will produce results. Understanding alignment begins with understanding God. God's will is not arbitrary. It is perfect, purposeful, and full of wisdom. When you pray according to His plan, you are tapping into a system that cannot fail. This is why some prayers move nations, heal the sick, or open doors that seem permanently closed. Alignment with God's will is not a limitation. It is liberation. It releases you from the frustration of praying in directions that lead nowhere. Alignment positions your words, your heart, and your faith to operate within divine authority. When your desires line up with God's purpose, your prayers stop bouncing off the ceiling of heaven and begin to hit the mark with precision. Many people make the mistake of praying out of convenience, out of comfort, or out of what they perceive as needs, rather than what is divinely appointed for them. They pray for quick fixes, for shortcuts, for what seems good in the moment, ignoring the greater plan that God has already set. But when you learn to pray in alignment, your requests are not based on whims. They are based on wisdom. They are based on insight that comes from communion with God, from studying His Word, from listening to the voice of the Spirit. You begin to understand that God does not just answer any prayer. He answers the right prayer, the prayer that is consistent consistent with His will, the prayer that advances His kingdom and your destiny simultaneously. Alignment also demands discernment. It requires that you learn to hear the voice of God and distinguish it from your own desires or the pressures of life. God's will is often revealed not in dramatic signs, but in subtle guidance, in peace that surpasses understanding, in a confirmation that resonates in the depths of your spirit. When your prayer is aligned, it is not just about what you ask, it is about timing, context, and obedience. God honors prayers that are submitted to His wisdom because they reflect trust and reverence, not self-interest or rebellion. When you pray in alignment, you access power that surpasses human limitations. Your faith is strengthened because your request is not fighting against divine purpose. It is flowing with it. Your expectation is reinforced because the heavens are already predisposed to answer prayers that correspond with God's plan. Alignment removes the frustration of unanswered prayers and replaces it with the joy of seeing what you ask for manifest exactly as it should, in the right time, in the right way, and for the highest purpose. To see results, do not pray with just desire, pray with discernment. Do not pray with just persistence, pray with purpose. Align your prayers with God's will, and you step into a realm where the impossible becomes natural, where breakthrough is inevitable, and where every word you speak carries authority. Alignment is not optional if you want results. It is the roadmap that leads your prayer from the realm of hope into the realm of manifestation. Persistence is the defining factor that separates those who see results from those who only hope for them. Many people pray once, twice, maybe 3 times, and when nothing happens immediately, they give up and conclude that God has ignored them. But the truth is, breakthrough rarely comes to the casual, the inconsistent, or the faint-hearted. Prayer is not a one-time event. It is a lifestyle. It is the steady, unwavering pursuit of God despite delays, disappointments, and the weight of circumstances. Persistence in prayer is what unlocks doors that seem permanently closed, moves mountains that appear immovable, and turns situations that look hopeless into testimonies of God's faithfulness. The reality is that spiritual breakthroughs are often delayed to test and strengthen your faith. When you persist in prayer, you are training your spirit to align with God's timing, not your own. Many people fail to see answers because they are impatient. They expect immediate results and give up too soon, not realizing that the power of persistence is what prepares the heavens to release the answer. God's timing is perfect, and persistence is the vehicle that keeps your heart engaged and your faith alive while He orchestrates the fulfillment of your request. The longer you persist, the stronger your faith becomes and the more powerful your prayers grow. Persistence in prayer is also a demonstration of your dependence on God. It is easy to pray once and then move on, but it takes spiritual discipline to return repeatedly with renewed passion and focus to the throne of grace. This consistency tells God that you are serious, that you are not willing to settle for half measures, that you are determined to see His will manifest in your life. Persistent prayer cultivates a relationship with God that goes deeper than words. It develops intimacy, trust, and an unwavering expectation that your prayers will not return void. Another powerful aspect of persistence is that it cultivates resilience. Life will test your resolve with delays, distractions, and discouragements, but the persistent believer refuses to be defeated. The storms may rage, the opposition may intensify, yet persistence teaches you to stand firm. It develops spiritual endurance, the kind that does not waver when answers are delayed. The answers you receive in prayer are often proportional to the effort and endurance you invest. The more you persist, the more your spirit is strengthened to receive the miracle when it arrives. Persistence also builds alignment between your faith and God's plan. When you keep praying despite obstacles, your heart begins to resonate with His will. Your prayers shift from simply asking to interceding in faith, aligning more closely with the divine agenda. This alignment multiplies the effectiveness of your prayers and positions you to experience results beyond what you initially imagined. Do not allow the first delay, the first disappointment, or the first challenge to silence your prayers. Persist, keep believing, keep standing. The answer is on the way, and it often comes when persistence has exhausted the natural options and forced the supernatural to intervene. Persistence is not optional if you want results. It is the vehicle through which heaven is compelled to respond, and it is the key that unlocks the door to your breakthrough. Prayer is not just speaking, it is listening, responding, and walking in obedience. Many people approach prayer as if it is a vending machine. You put in words, you expect an answer, and when nothing happens immediately, you grow frustrated. But God is not a machine, and prayer is not a transaction. True, result-producing prayer is relational. It is a conversation between you and the creator of the universe. It is as much about receiving instruction, guidance, and correction as it is about making requests. The power of prayer is fully unleashed when you learn to listen to God, discern His voice, and act according to His leading. Listening is one of the most neglected aspects of prayer. People pour out their hearts, but they do not pause to hear what God wants to say. They ask, and ask again, but their hearts are closed to divine direction. Yet in every answer, there is a message. In every breakthrough, there is a principle. When you pray with the intent to listen, your spirit becomes sensitive to God's whispers, nudges, and confirmations. It is in these moments of quiet attentiveness that strategies are revealed, steps are clarified, and solutions become clear. Listening is the bridge between your words and God's action. Without it, prayers may remain unanswered, not because God is unwilling, but because you are unaware of His guidance. Obedience is the next critical element. Prayer that produces results is always accompanied by a lifestyle of submission. God responds to those whose hearts are willing to follow His instructions. You cannot pray for success while ignoring His principles. You cannot ask for favor while walking in disobedience. Obedience validates your faith and aligns your actions with the power of your prayer. It demonstrates that you trust not only in what God can do, but also in what He says. Every instruction obeyed is a step closer to the manifestation of your request. Disobedience, however, creates a blockade, a resistance that nullifies the potential of your prayer. Action is the final component that brings prayer into reality. Many people pray for opportunities, for breakthroughs, for doors to open, yet they remain stagnant, waiting for miracles to fall from the sky. Prayer without action is incomplete. God honors effort, initiative, and responsibility. When you pray and then move in accordance with His guidance, you are co-laboring with Him. You are participating in the fulfillment of what you asked for. Action demonstrates faith in motion. It shows that your trust is not empty words, but a living force willing to partner with God's power. Listening, obedience, and action form a cycle that gives your prayer life its strength. When you speak to God, pause to hear. When you hear, respond with obedience. When you obey, move in action. This cycle turns requests into results, faith into manifestation, and ordinary prayer into a powerful spiritual weapon. If you want results, do not only ask. Listen for God's voice. Obey His instruction. Take deliberate action. This is how prayer becomes unstoppable. This is how lives are transformed. Mountains are moved, and the supernatural becomes the natural in your life. Prayer is not a monologue. It is a dynamic conversation that demands your heart, your mind, and your hands. The moment you embrace this, your prayers will no longer go unanswered.